have been married for as long as I've been alive. Which makes somebody in this conversation old. About 28 years? So Elena and Ted Dodd will come up to the stage. Give them a big round of applause.
Okay.
Thank you for coming. The story we want to tell is about how we got acquainted. And you'll forgive us if we refer to our scripts. We don't want to leave anything out that's important, right? It happened on a camping trip in summer, 1964. I was 27 and Ted was 24. And we were living in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I was about to start a job teaching English at Northeastern University in Boston. And Ted was in the process of deciding to go into cabinet making. We had met briefly at a Shakespeare reading, and I can't say I noticed Ted especially, but he noticed me.
I admired her calves.
Well, that summer, I was going with some friends and going camping in the Smoky Mountains. There were 3 women on this trip and just one man, Jim McIntosh, and we had all taught together at a Quaker school in Iowa. Now we were in Cambridge, and Jim didn't really want to be the only guy on this trip, and so he invited Ted to come along. Ted was a family friend.
We drove down in 2 cars. We spent the night at my mother's apartment in New York. She was abroad at the time. The doorman was rather surprised when 3 young women and 2 guys marched through the door with sleeping bags. Elena joined me in my VW bug for the drive through Virginia. We admired the azaleas along the Blue Ridge. She discovered I like to sing operatic arias, and I keep a hand-copied collection in my glove compartment.
Ted's love of opera was very endearing, and I thought it was very cool that he would sing arias just for the fun of it. He had this hand-copied sheaf of arias carefully stowed in the compartment of his green Volkswagen Bug. Later that same summer, I had a job in Pine Mountain, Kentucky. So I came back to the mountains, and this was in a Head Start program in a rural Appalachian community, Pine Mountain, where I was helping out with Head Start, or what we called Little School.
Back in Cambridge, I missed Elena, so I went to visit her at Pine Mountain. We camped out at Cumberland Gap and had solemn conversations about spirituality.
Did.
I asked to hold hands. It was a thrill when she offered hers. In the fall, we were on a date up to Salem, Mass., and as we sat on a pier overlooking the harbor, I proposed to her.
I told Ted that I wouldn't let him know right away, but I would let him know the next day. I accepted, as you see. His dad, at that time, was living on Windmill Hill in Putney, and we thought we would be married on the mountain, and we asked Jeff Campbell, who was Ted's English teacher at Putney School, also a justice of the peace, to do our ceremony. So with Jeff, we talked about marriage, and we said, well, if it really doesn't work, we won't go on with it, but we will do our very best to make it work. It's still, so far it has. So the day was November 14th, 1964. It was the first day of hunting season. So we were on Bill Adams' pasture, or Banning's Knoll. It's now owned by Mike McKenzie, a beautiful lookout spot north of Putney Mountain. We asked all of our guests to wear red. It wasn't posted. We went up the mountain. Nobody got shot at. And we planned some readings. One was from Hamlet, "What a piece of work is a man," and the other from the Psalms, "I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills," and that was my mother's favorite psalm. Just before we gathered with family and a few friends, my mother-in-law-to-be produced a small music box and played "Here Comes the Bride." Afterwards, it was this beautiful windy day. It was sunny. Ted thought we should bushwhack down the hill. Well, he likes to get lost in the woods. I was a little dubious. It was, as you know, it was hunting season. But I thought, I just said to this person that I was going to go with him, you know, I was going to spend my life with him. So I guess this is it. So we bushwhacked down the hill.
And we made it.
And we survived.
On our occasion, my father, Ed Dodd, wrote some celebratory lines which we'd like to read to you. Before we begin, I'll explain a few references. You need to know that I majored in classics in college. Elena is an amateur flute player. My nickname as a child was Teddy, which Eva Munden still calls me. And Elena's younger sister calls her Kid. Last, we had a favorite Greek restaurant in Cambridge, the Acropolis. Mountain marriage. Oh, they met in the great Smoky Mountains, high in that rarefied air. He with a true woodsman's swagger, she with her honey-hued hair. What magic took place on those mountains in that ineffable air to weld these two innocent creatures into a love-struck pair?
Did he woo her with iambic pentameters? This lad with a classical bent. Haul out his Homer, slip in his Sophocles, practice his Plato. How did he prate? Oh, this lad for philosophy meant. And why did this school-teaching lassie become such a seductive chit? She could dangle no participles, split no infinitives, yet his heart gave an infinite split.
We can ponder this nebulous puzzle, how this metamorphosis was set between this flute-playing, honey-hued maiden and this maker of fine cabaret. My father loved these kind of... Let's see. Known simply as Kid and as Teddy, they seemed quite normal two guys. What transformed them then into a Thisbe, a Pyramus? Romeo, a Juliet, a Melisande, a Peleus. Oh my oh. Even Eloise and Abelard were scarce distinguishable now from Elena and Eduard.
You have heard of the song of Circe, the tune that the sweet siren sang, an air so delicious that doughty Odysseus never got over his pang. But we've reckoned without a most wondrous magic in this day and age. And here is demonstrable proof that compounds of Homer and Wagner and Shakespeare, Maeterlinck too, are not to a whiff of that great smoky ozone that transfigured this here present too.
Next thing, he went off to visit her at her Pine Mountain camp in Kentucky to hike and to sing with exquisite her. On a mountain again, they were lucky.
They communed on a high plain in Cambridge. In the lift of Mount Academe, he fed her Greek meatballs and Retsina. How wondrous the whole world did seem.
And now atop Bill Adams' pasture, with the green mountains gathered around, there will still be that great smoky ozone, lifting them high off the ground.
Thanks to. Too bad Ed Dodd, maybe Ed Dodd's turning over in his grave. So since it says there that we sang together, we're going to sing for you. And this is a Renaissance duet by Thomas Morley, and it's called I Go Before My Darling. Stay tuned. I go before my darling.
I go before my darling. I go before my darling.
I go before my darling. I go before my darling. I go before my darling.
Follow thou to the bow in the close alley. There we will together sweetly kiss each other and like two wantons.
Dally, 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 dally.
Dally, 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 dally.
There we will together sweetly kiss each other and like two wantons.
Dally, 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 dally.
Dally, 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 dally. Thank you.